Thank you so much, DG. I do appreciate this. You have emphasized in no mean terms the need to generate the revenue in order to be able to service the debts or pay part of the principal debt itself.
Yeah.
I think that this is what Talking Trade is all about. We have been trying to encourage Nigeria to bake a new national cake. If the problem of the country has been struggling for a share of the cake, we believe that non-oil exporters are actually qualified to bake a new national cake and reduce the pressure on the center. And I think that we will get there as we're going. I want to bring this into some kind of a summary perspective. Um, Part of the credentials that Nigeria's new president had was raising the revenue, internally generated revenue of Lagos State when he was governor of Lagos State, raising it dramatically, unbelievably by about 1,000, 2,000%. And therefore, I have a very strong hope that if revenue generation is part and parcel of the man's DNA, generating revenue from export should actually come like a piece of cake for him. And we're hoping that the suggestions that you bring up on this platform, on this webinar today, will probably help them to get to that level. Let me bring a what we call a retired principal of uh, non-oil export institution. Sorry, that institution exists in only my head. We haven't created it yet. Dr. John Isemede, you have plied this road with us for several decades, and now here we are. For those of us in the export industry, we are actually looking to be able to clap for Mr. President in his first 100 days. If Nigeria Bureau of Statistics can report a sporadic uh, increase in foreign exchange generation from the non-oil export sector. Two things, just one and two, in 2 minutes, sir, that you think the government can do to achieve a speedy turnaround in Nigeria's economy.
Yeah, thank you, Boyede. So let me stand on existing protocol. This is a familiar terrain, not only in Nigeria, because we have worked in other countries before. When you talk of revenue generation, the first question we should ask ourselves, the president was able to do ABCD in Lagos. But Lagos is different from other 36 states and all that. So also we should look at what other states of Nigeria is contributing, how many people are working, and what the governors are doing. We should not shy away, we are adults. We have seen it over the years that most governors live in Abuja. Is that where they are doing the supervision? During the political era or when the campaigns, many abandon their states. But when you now want to talk of revenue generation, I have worked in companies, Unilever, Dangote, Cowbell, Unido, and all that. These are companies that were equally using oil and gas. And we have not been able to ask ourselves, how are other countries sharing borders with us are able to do it? I work in Benin. What we pay here is lower than what they pay in Benin Republic to buy diesel or petrol or whatever you call it. But the truth of the matter is that what of cost of transportation? If you look at the analysis, the matrix and all that, I say Abuja should be cheapest in the world, followed by Accra. And if you now talk of revenue generation, what of the leakages in the system? Exporters will tell you here that when we take our goods to the port, the number of agencies and all that, do you get receipts? Another issue you should equally look at it is that you are talking of petrol. Am I to do the work of the security agencies or the private sector to do the work of an NPC? In 1990, I carried out a research for Unilever. I went to Central African Republic by road. I went to Chad, up to Mali, Burkina Faso, and all that. If the report is still available, Nigeria is the one subsidizing all this. I went to Cameroon, down to the border with Gabon and Equatorial Guinea. How many Nigerians have done all this? If you now talk of revenue generation, you have to produce before you get revenue. In that, looking at that chain, people will pay taxes. What of the cost of production in Nigeria? The policy of Nigeria is on importation because of the import culture. People prefer to import and make huge amount of money and create billionaires out of nothing. Look at the banks who are posting profit. If Mr. President want to generate more revenue, we know the area we should focus on. We are talking of production. We are talking of distribution. To bring in goods to Nigeria is one of the cheapest in the world on FOB or CIF basis. To take a container from here to Benin Republic is much more expensive. This morning, people were talking about going to Cote d'Ivoire by air. And from the ticket I have here to China, it's even cheaper than to go to Cote d'Ivoire. I've not been to Cote d'Ivoire for the past 30 years by air. To me, 1,200 kilometers is what I can drive in 18 hours. If you look at the final analysis, government has come up with a very good, the commodity boards. I have been fighting that battle for close to 14 years. Since the commodity board was abolished in 1986, it became an issue of quality and all that. The chairman or the president of NASPAN is here, and I said it in Abuja, it's more or less a political gang-up because most of the MDAs are working for foreigners. So if the president can implement the commodity board, more money will come into this country. It's not the idea of taking cashew nut to Benin Republic, you can export, or you take cocoa to Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. John, and thank you that just at the point I was trying to pause you, you were rounding up. I was actually going to ask the question which you already answered. Having commodity boards is one thing. Staffing them with knowledgeable technocrats probably should be a point of attention. I think this could be one of our conclusions here. The commodities boards are very, very welcome, but they must be properly staffed and properly equipped also to do the job. Their activities, action plan, terms of reference must be clearly defined in such a way that it gives room for deliverable targets and therefore monitoring and evaluation of performance. Thank you very much, Dr. Isemede, for that. Mr. Fidelis Onu, you did a summary of Mr. President's speech. Can you please just share with us 2-3 points where you think that, again, I'm going to bring probably looking at other things. So it does take money. It takes money to get money. It takes money to get money. And I think that we have not, even the last time, we've not talked about the role of financing exports in Nigeria in such a way that it can then generate much more money. But for now, Mr. Onu, please share with us your views about how the new administration can actually put Nigeria on the direction of an export-driven economy.
All right, thank you very much, sir. And once again, thank you for this opportunity you are giving us. I want to humbly acknowledge the presence of my elder, Dr. Isemede, who was a past DG of NASIMA, and also support most of what he has said on this platform. Okay, all right, let me share my video. Am I? All right. So in the light of, and before I just go on, I just want to use this opportunity to let everybody know that NASIMA will be having our investiture for the new, the incoming president, Chief Dele Oye, on the 6th of November. And one of his issues on his agenda is to try to see how the organized private sector can partner with the government to attract, investment into Nigeria, regardless of our challenges and circumstances. So I'm hoping that some of us in this platform will do our best to attend the investiture. It's going to become in Ekiti State. Having said that, in the light of the challenges posed by the removal of oil subsidy and the subsequent increase in fuel prices, here are, in my own opinion, suggestions that could help to mitigate, the impact on our exporters in not just Delta State now, but even in Nigeria. One is government support, and I'm happy that the new president is looking at really partnering with the private sector to see how we can grow our economy. From the speech he's given, my hope is that, like you said earlier, in the next 100 days, he should be able to get some milestones in that regards. But the private sector really craves for government support, that enabling environment. The government can provide targeted support incentives to exporters to offset the increased production costs. This could include subsidies or grants, specifically directed towards exporters to help alleviate the burden of higher fuel prices. If we're going to be competitive, like you were alluding to earlier, we need to look at the cost of our, fuel, and how it impacts our exports and all that in terms of transportation and other logistical issues. Infrastructural development is another issue we need to look at critically. We need to invest in infrastructure, particularly, like I said earlier, transportation networks, which can help reduce logistical costs for exporters, improving our roads, rail, and all that. Cocoa pot, for instance, in Delta State, is so neglected, and I think, and some exports go on from there, maybe not in a huge form, but I believe that if maybe state, federal government, and even the private sector can look at providing some kind of infrastructure, because the roads to that port are abysmal to a large extent. So our hope as DASIMA is that the federal government and the state government can look at, upgrading that port and putting more infrastructure in place, to help drive exports and even imports of much necessary or much needed commodities or part of the production value chain for manufacturers in Delta State and also in the region. Another aspect again that we need to look at is diversification of energy sources. One of the challenges I have seen as a member of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission forum in Asaba, Delta State, is that a lot of industries crave for, affordable and efficient power supply that we're not getting from the conventional sources like discos and all that. We need investment in that area because that's where our members can now begin to grow their capacity. There are clusters we have tried to encourage, to keep on producing, but the cost of production is too much, largely because of this power inefficiency by the government, by the utility companies operating the franchise, and I'm not going to mention names, but that's a major challenge for us. So we're hoping that we can attract, investors into that, this aspect of power production and power energy access, so that our producers, manufacturers, processors can begin to produce competitively. We're tired of hearing things like, okay, we are exporting palm oil produce, or it looks like it's cheaper to get its source from Cote d'Ivoire or some other countries that we believe we are, in capacity better than or larger than. So I'm hoping that that's something that the new administration should look into in the not too distant future. Export promotion and, sorry?
No, I thought you had rounded up.
No, okay, I'll round up in a few minutes now. So export promotion and market development is another area the government and the chambers of commerce can collaborate to actively promote Nigerian exports and explore markets. That's one area we should really collaborate on by diversifying our export destinations, identifying emerging markets with favorable trading conditions. Exporters can mitigate the impact of increased costs of tapping into new opportunities. Enhanced efficiency and cost management is another aspect that government can look into in partnership with the organized private sector. Exporters should focus on improving, our operational efficiency. Many exporters have not done that, administratively and capacity of operation. So people are still operating in ways that are not, inclusive of world best practices, and using archaic, what do you call it, production equipment to do their business. I think, and also in employing staff that are not capable of running their business. That's another challenge that many of our people have in the Niger Delta. This can include optimizing supply chains. I'm talking about efficiency and cost management. We can also look at including, optimizing supply chains, exploring economies of scale, and adopting technology solutions and streamline, processes and reduce wastage. Then advocacy and dialogue. That's the language of the chambers of commerce. We like to advocate for different things. And now that we have this issue of, and I'm glad about this such a program. This is a welcome development, and we hope that from this program, when we come to some kind of communicate, we can impute our own information into the advocacy that we'll be making to the federal government concerning, the impact of this removal of subsidy. And
I think I may have to pause you here. I'm seeing that we have barely 25 minutes to go. We'll try to take as many this as possible, and then if there's time, we'll still come back and pick you. I know that there are a few hands on, Dr. Akonji, Mr. Mohammed Kotangora, our national president, and I specifically wanted to hear about the transport facilitation thing, and so I think we should just pause and for the time being, let's hand over to our anchor emeritus, Lady K, and then we will come back again to the panelists very shortly. Thank you.